Hi,
How's it going?
everything is good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How have you been?
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for accepting my request and accepting to talk with me.
Absolutely. I was just looking a bit at some of the stuff you're doing on YouTube. It's pretty cool meeting all these interesting folks. So it was good to hear from you.
Thank you, thank you. So I thought to introduce you to my audience.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to meeting your audience.
So can you please introduce yourself to the world?
Yeah, my name is Will Tao. I'm a Canadian immigration and refugee lawyer for Heron Law Offices out in Burnaby, British Columbia, in Canada. And yeah, I'm really glad to be on this show and really happy to meet you.
So immigration lawyer.
I am an immigration lawyer. One of many hats. I do some teaching. I also am a writer and troublemaker, generally speaking.
Troublemaker. Nice. So can you tell more about your job, immigration lawyer?
Yeah, well, recently, especially during COVID-19, but for sure in the last few years, Canada has really uh, become a worldwide destination for immigrants and newcomers. And I'm really grateful to be able to do this work to help families and students and workers relocate to Canada. And for those who are here to stay here and try and reunite their families. But I'm also really cognizant of doing this work on stolen Indigenous land that we live on. So it's it's a job that I love to help people. I love to solve their problems, and I love to try and make Canada a better country and build from inside. So that's sort of what I do for work.
So if I want to come to Canada and Vancouver, so what should I do?
That's the first question they always ask. Well, it depends on your own situation, right? And I think that one thing that I think it's important is first of all to make sure you work with someone who is qualified, right? Make sure that they're actually a lawyer who has a license, or make sure if they're a consultant that they uh, are a registered consultant, not just an agent abroad. And make sure you do your research yourself, right? I think sometimes we think that someone we just give you our file to someone, they'll take care of it. I need to get to know my clients, get to know their stories, why they want to come here, what their own background is before advising them. So I usually start with a consultation and meet them and get to know their story, and then uh, you know we'll navigate the law and figure out a way to the best way for them to come. And sometimes there's no way, but if there is a way, that I will try and find that way.
Okay, so which country people will you help? All the country?
All over the world, right? And we have access to some amazing interpreters and translators, so language is not a barrier. Now with internet, we do most of our meetings through MS Teams, and we're able to and Skype, and we're able to connect with people just as if we were in the same office together. So it's a wonderful time to do this work, but it's important to be very ethical in doing this work, because there's a lot of people looking to exploit uh, migrants and newcomers, and it's important to do the work with a high value and a high ethical standard.
So a person completed his studies and his masters, and he wants to come to Canada. So what is the process?
Well, it depends. I mean, right now, express entry is very difficult. The usual way to immigrate as a federal skilled worker becomes a little bit more difficult because the scores are quite high, and you don't have Canadian work experience or education experience. So for a master's student, coming here to do a PhD would be a great opportunity. There's some amazing schools in Canada all across the country. And then, there's other options as well. If there's a work-based option, or if there's an employer, if you're trying to transfer yourself from one employer where you are to one here that's in, the same company. There's a lot of options, right? And there's not one solution, but it's good to think about those, and to spend time with your clients to understand where they're coming from.
So tell me about the clients that you that come to you.
Yeah, they come from all over the world. Like we actually, it's interesting. We were just doing a map for our new website that we're hoping to launch, and our clients are from all over, literally all over the world. There's a few countries we're still trying to fill in. Like I want a client from this particular country. But just, I mean, I'll give you an example for today. I worked with a client from Turkmenistan. We have quite a few clients from Nigeria, and these are just the ones that are less, common. But a lot of applicants, of course, from India. India is a huge population representation, both in Canada increasingly, but also it's I think our largest immigrant sourcing country right now. A lot from China, from the Philippines, from everywhere, Southeast Asia, Europe, Africa, and I think part of the things I like to do is I like to find clients from countries where maybe people know less about, right? Yet they're so interested in Canada. I think it's great when our country is able to accept migrants from countries that are less known, and they come here and they bring their culture, bring their community, bring their passions, bring their talents, and then we make Canada a more exciting place to live, and really challenge some of the existing systems in place that maybe have kept racialized people down for many years, and try and give a little bit more color to this country, right? That's something that's a major goal and passion of mine.
So, what are the common questions that you observe from most of the people who wants to come?
Um, I think most people are just in a situation in their life where they really want to relocate, and Canada, for many reasons, has an amazing international reputation. On my end, I think the most important thing I do is to give clients also a reality check. Don't overpromise anything. Let them know that this is not going to be an easy journey, right? And it might mean separating from your family for a short-term period. If, for example, your spouse is refused their visa, or if, for example, you can't all come at the same time, it might mean many years of waiting and uncertainty, right? Some people are leaving situations where it's more certain, and it's, they actually have something good there, but they want something better. And that's, it's a difficult thing to tell people. It might not be better right away. It might be tough for the next several years, not knowing exactly when you're going to get your residency, or your permits, and maybe even being refused. It's going to be heartbreaking. So that's sort of the first thing I tell people, and then next, we switch to a more positive lens. Here are some routes, here are some options, and I help them do that process.
So, why people should come to Canada?
Well, I think most importantly, first of all, I was born in Canada, so I come from you know, I've known nothing else but Canada. I've traveled a bit around the world, and I do find myself always, when I'm on a plane, excited to go see other countries. But on that plane ride back home, I'm always like, I'm so glad to be home. I love this country. It's beautiful, inside and out. The people, and definitely. For its freedoms, its laws, its rule of law, the way that the fundamental values that we try and promote. Does it always work in practice? It's not a perfect system, and that's why I like to do this work, because I think we need to, for example, make sure Indigenous communities have a much larger voice in the sovereignty of this country. We've I don't know if you know too much about the history of Canada, but it was a history of colonialism where Indigenous lands were expropriated, families were separated, a lot of harm was done. And I think it's incumbent on Canada to undo that harm. And I think that newcomers obviously coming here is continual colonization, but if there's a way that we can bring those communities together, that is my passion now. How do we bring newcomer communities and Indigenous communities in Canada together to form a stronger political force and force for movement? So that's what I'm passionate about. But this country is great. I mean, we get a little bit of everything. My block, for example, one second I'm eating Malaysian food, the next store over is an Indian restaurant, next over is a Chinese restaurant, the Italian pizza place right across the street. I mean, there's very few countries in the world where it's really that much opportunity in like a one block radius, almost all the way across the country. So that's great, and I love it.
Are you an immigrant?
As I mentioned, I was born here, but when you look at the word immigrant, I think we needed to break that down as well. Like, we are all, in a sense, immigrants, right? Like, even if we've been here multiple generations. My parents' generation immigrated here, but all of us are come from somewhere, going somewhere, and we are not native to this land. And that's important to know. And as we build it, that we're not entitled to anything here, right? It's all a work in progress, and there's no one less entitled or more entitled to us other than those who were the original Indigenous communities to this land. We all need to work together and solve problems and fix systems, and not believe we're better than anyone else. And that's what I love about Canada, is I think we're not there, but at least we have some of that idea that there's not like strict caste systems, strict hierarchies that must be followed. We can challenge them. We can speak out against them. We can make them better, and I love that about this country.
So, a lot of time I listen to a thought called Canadians are very nice people. Why this nice people came?
We say sorry all the time whenever we do anything. I'm the same way. You go around and you're saying sorry, sorry, open the door for someone, sorry. Even when you're not really supposed to use the word sorry, it seems to be our word of like, good to see you, I'm sorry, or whatever. But the other one is that I think genuinely, um, we it's tough to say because I think maybe like other countries, we haven't had as much of we're not as much of a product of a more recent war or political turmoil. That being said, if you go back in history, there was so much still oppression and violence, and we sort of forget about that now. So it's of course bringing those up may make us less nice about it, but I think maybe part of it is that peace is and the values and the charter values of freedom and all the things that we espouse in this country has always been about that loving community feel. That's not to say we don't have our own problems, but at least I think we have that fundamental value that we want to go there, and I love that, right? And I think that's what makes us nice people around the world. We try, but again, we can't generalize, right? And in any country, any people, any group, there's always nice people. There's always people who are not so nice, and you can only try your best to be a representative of what the nice parts of it if you can, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, what about the climate?
The climate of Canada. Well, it depends where you're living, right? If you're in, I'm in Vancouver, so many people choose Vancouver and Burnaby-ish area because it's the weather is more temperate. It's less cold. The winters are not that cold. The summers are not that hot. It's very it's good in that sense. But for others, they who live in Canada, we have a lot of north cold, very very frigid. The winters in Ottawa. I went to law school there. It's cold. It's minus 30 degrees. It's your whole you're wearing 5 layers to go out, and you don't want to go out because it's so cold. But there's other places. I mean, I don't think we have like a really hot spot in Canada, but I think of course, as global warming is happening, all the temperatures are sort of heating up a little bit around the world. But it's good. It's temperate, and I sometimes do wish I'm in California soaking up the sun, and it rains a lot here. But those things come with things you can't control, obviously.
And food?
Sorry, and the food? Oh,
Yeah.
I was telling you, as you can see, I'm a huge foodie. I love the food in Canada. And again, being proximal to the sea, getting a lot of really good seafood, at least where I'm in Vancouver. But every region and every city and every province has their own type of food and unique things. For example, Nova Scotia has lobsters that are incredible. I've never been there, but I know about that. In Ottawa, you're having your poutine, your so things that you won't find in the same form in other places. Quebec is, obviously really good for the French fusion, the Quebec fusion food. And in Vancouver, we're really known for the Chinese food because the Chinese community has had a long, long history here. Definitely the Indian food, more Punjabi Indian in Vancouver. So you have a lot of really good Punjabi Northern Indian style food. And then you have the sushi for sure, the seafood, the Japanese sushi stuff is probably among the best outside of Japan. I've never been to Japan as well, but these things you hear. Yeah, I think the food is great here, and I can definitely. I'm packing on the COVID pounds, so I'm definitely enjoying the food for sure.
So, so it is multicultural.
Absolutely, very very multicultural. I mean, the word multicultural has its problems as well, right? It's not a perfect phrase. The idea, we try and call ourselves the mosaic because everyone can sort of coexist on the same map in the same space, and no one's like assimilating. But the reality is, I mean, if you're on the ground, and I don't know if it's the same in your community, but whenever there is a dominant group or a dominant power, people are trying to assimilate to be part of that and to get the advantages of that. And so, can I say it's multicultural? That's a good word on paper, but in reality, I think many of us who come from migrant backgrounds or different communities wish we could have a little bit more of where we came from in our country right now. Be able to be a little bit prouder of it, display it more. I wish I had street food like I did back in when not did, but when I go to Asia and my partner's family and those places. I wish I could see a little bit more of the cultural nuance and not have everything be a fusion restaurant. That's a food thing, but also, politically, I wish we had more representation. There were more of us who are judges and more of us that are, leading. I know you talk to different people from different professions. I wish we were a little bit more on the top of, governments and institutions and on the boards, and it's happening. We're slowly getting there, but there's still pushback for sure, right? And that's racism, and that's why I'm a big believer in anti-racism and trying to provide opportunities and to recognize my own role sometimes in taking up too much space in the public as well.
So, what are the points that makes people from different country to stop coming to Canada?
What makes people come here?
Stops.
Stop? Or what? Why would they not come here?
Yeah, I mean, what
Why?
makes? What are the reasons why they visas get rejected?
Well, they get rejected for many reasons, but a big common one now is if you're from a country where, there's a belief that you will not return back to your country of origin, that you don't meet the requirements of the visa you're applying for, that there's, your job is not genuine, you don't genuinely want to study. There's many reasons to get refused, but I think the big one right now that we're seeing, and the big worry that I have, is that we're refusing a lot of applicants from countries where it's because we don't understand those cultures and communities enough, that we're just applying stereotypical thinking, right? That we're thinking that all Indians are misrepresenting, all Nigerians are lying on their applications, and that certain visas offices are being stricter on applicants than other visa officers, and that to me is fundamentally unfair. And I think we need to try and challenge some of those stereotypes to make sure that it's a more equitable system for all those who apply to come to Canada.
So, in different countries, they are coming by using their consultancies.
Yeah, these consultancies are actually not licensed. So most of them don't have anybody. Maybe they have one person signing off on the documents, but that's a problem. And I think, we want to make sure there's equal access to justice. We want to make sure that there are good opportunities to come here and get good advice. But the problem is we can't have these consultancies operating globally without any regulation, not knowing what they're doing. And many times if they do that, what happens to the clients is they get refused for lying, for submitting false documents, for other issues, and then they get 5 years banned from Canada, right? It's called misrepresentation. So it's very worrisome. So I think my one advice for your listeners, anybody who wants to come to Canada and is thinking about it, reach out. Like, it doesn't have to be me. There's many good practitioners, good lawyers, and good consultants around the world. There's a lot of us, but get that good advice and make sure it's good advice, right? It's not just, putting your papers in someone else's hand and saying, take care of it. That's not how it works here. It works like that in some countries, and I know it does, where you just sort of, tell someone they take care of the problem. And here it's really much, you have to tell your story, build your case, spend time on your application, and little mistakes can lead to big consequences in Canada, for sure.
Okay, so what you do actually about? I want to ask this laws. There is about the laws
Yeah.
in Canada.
The laws in Canada, I mean, it's a whole big question to ask. But for me specifically, I'm an immigration refugee lawyer, meaning that I help my clients navigate immigration, refugee, citizenship law. So when a client is facing a refusal or trying to meet a requirement of a program, I also go to appeals. So when a client gets refused and they have a right to appeal, they go to a tribunal to argue their case. I do that. I go to federal court as well. So if applications refused, they need to do what's called a judicial review to review whether a decision was reasonable or fair. I go to court for my clients as well. So in my own work, I do that. But in Canada generally, I mean, we're a common law and civil law in Quebec. So it's a bijural country. So there's two systems in one country. We have a very strong constitution, and that constitution is a model for all over the world. So many other countries have utilized the Canadian Constitution and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms as a model around the world. And then we forget that we have very strong Indigenous laws as well. And Indigenous laws, I'm trying to learn more about that. It's not an area that I'm strong in, but there's been a law that existed before we came to this land, and those laws have grown as well through oral history, through a lot of the ways that Indigenous communities have settled their issues and negotiated. And we're trying to figure out how to move some of those ideas into our own laws as well. So there's many systems of law. Of course, we also have many individuals who come from different countries and bring in their own ideas of law, and that makes our law stronger because we reevaluate what we've done for a long time. Society keeps growing and building so that we have changed our laws. Some laws were unfair. It used to be very discriminatory against same-sex marriage, against persons with disabilities. As society has changed, we have opened our doors and been more, I believe, inclusive, and we're still trying to build and improve that system. So we have a really strong system of law here, but it's not a perfect one, and I look forward to helping build out and make it more better. There's never perfect, but more better in the future.
So, what are the main points that every person who wants to put their leg on the Canada land should remember before putting their leg?
I would, if I were sort of someone who is looking to come to Canada and doing some research, if that's a question that you would ask, and like, what would you want to know before you come here? Definitely start with Indigenous history. That's important. Just understanding that, I think it makes you more humble in the act of coming here and recognizing that significance. I think it's important to also understand the racist history as well, how historically there has been exclusion. Historically, people like you and me were the ones who were kept out of the country, who were rejected, who they turned away boats. They made laws to stop us from being able to enter Canada, to be with our families. And slowly that has changed a little bit, but only with some strong advocacy. And then understand what the system is now in terms of we have a very much still British influenced, as well as the Quebec influence from France, but the British influence is especially strong in our law still. It is a common law jurisdiction, still built very much. Our government is still very much built on the UK model. And learn a bit about that and see, just understanding that. And then once you understand the government, then you start looking at the people and just, looking at where the different communities are. And if you're from a community, do you want to go to a city where more of us are there to build your community? Or if you want to go somewhere where there's less people from your community and try and learn more about the other, be the only person from your community group in the middle of some other city or town in Canada and try and build there. Do you want to go to a rural community or to a big city? A lot of things to ask about, but do your research. I think that's the one thing I would say. People who do their research tend to do better and enjoy their time in Canada more than those who come here without knowing what they're getting into.
What is the crime rate in Canada, and how is the police system?
The crime rate. I actually don't have those stats for you, but I didn't know you were asking about that. I mean, it depends. Depends what city you're living in, and depends on what those issues are in those cities. It's not perfect again, right? There's been, just like in the United States, a lot of concern about the police conduct, especially when arresting racialized folks, especially in some of the violence there. So I have a complicated relationship with how that system works, right? And I think it could be improved by more community efforts, community groups, stepping in, so we don't have to become a police state and over rely on police, right? I think that there's a good thing there. In terms of crime rate, again, like right now, I think the big problem in Canada, there's still an increasing in many cities, especially during COVID now. There's a drug issue with fentanyl. There's communities that are struggling a lot with drug challenges and violence against women in certain communities. Violence against Indigenous women and Indigenous persons is still a huge problem. We have an over incarceration rate for Indigenous peoples. So there are a lot of bad things. And maybe that, that's part of me is as a lawyer, I look at the critical and the bad and try and fix things, right? And I'm sure if you ask someone else who is Canadian, who's maybe more of a politician or someone who's trying to promote trade and things, they would give you a different story. But I tend to be real with people, right? That's the bad stuff. And on the good end, um, I live in a space where I can open my door half the time. I don't have to lock it, and I feel quite safe. And my family, I want to raise a family here, so that can tell you everything I feel about whether it's a good place to start a family. There's nowhere else in the world I'd rather start a family than here. And I've been to
So,
a lot of countries around the world.
so how many people are coming to Canada from other countries every year?
Ooh, I actually don't even have that number with me. It changes every year, and it depends if it's a temporary resident or if it's a permanent resident. I'll have to send you those stats later down the road. I don't have them right off the top of my head. It's been a busy day, but a lot of people do come to Canada. Like it is very increasingly a attractive destination for people around the world. We have a lot of temporary residents, and we also have an increasing number of permanent residents who try and stay here permanently and then obtain citizenship afterwards. So, either you come for a visit, come as a student. If you like it, you can stay and apply for permanent residence if you meet the requirements. And if you like that, then after 3 years, you can apply for citizenship. So it's a good system. It's a good system. And we have, we need the immigrants community for population growth. We're that is our source of the economy, and that's our source of growth moving forward. So we're an open door to more people coming to Canada for sure.
So you said two other professions, writing and other professions. So can you tell in few lines about it?
Yeah, I'm a blogger, so I write on Vancouver Immigration Blog. I don't know if that's where you found me, but I'm always writing there on social issues, on immigration issues, also on poetry and just a bunch of other stuff like that. I do a lot of writing for newspapers and magazines and articles here and there. I also started a nonprofit called the Our News Foundation with my co-founder Idris Sarib, who's also my case manager at my firm. So we have a nonprofit where we research into these issues as well, social issues, issues affecting racialized, marginalized communities, write reports. That's our passion. And then other than that, I mean, what else do I do for fun? Tough. It's raining a lot these days. I mean, I'll be honest. So I stay home a lot, watch a lot of TV, watch a lot of sports. We love hockey. I'm more of a basketball/football fan myself, so I've been watching a little bit more of that recently. Play the piano a bit. Just we're all really human in outside of work, and I love that about I'm a lawyer when I have to be, but outside of that, I'm just a community advocate, a volunteer, just like everyone else, right? There's nothing that makes me any more special than anyone else.
So at last, do you have anything to say about anything to the world?
Yeah, to the world. I love that you're doing this, and I look forward to actually watching a few more of your videos to meet some more people around the world. You can find me on Twitter at The Will Truth, if my socials, TheWillTruth. So that's two L's, The Will Truth. I have my law firm's called Heron Law Offices. I don't want to promote too much on your podcast, but if anyone's interested, I do consultations, and I can look at your options to immigrate to Canada. And yeah, we have a nonprofit called the Our New Foundation, and if you're interested in some research or advocacy, come reach out to us. We're happy to work with you and connect with other brilliant professionals around the world and meet more people and grow our own understanding of this beautiful world. And I think you're doing a great job by telling the world about all the different people and the different faces that make up it. So it's pretty cool. And thanks for setting this up on like 10 minutes notice. I never had anybody try to set up an interview on 10 minutes notice, but sometimes it's better than sending over like a million emails and trying to like curate too much. This is so natural. This is just like meeting someone for the first time. And what's your story? And of course, I would love to interview you one day on one of my podcasts down the road. I still have to start it, but it'll be there one day, and we'll call you for sure.
I'll put all your socials and all your links in the description of this video. People who finds this video will can connect with you and can know the details. And if they want to know anything, and if they want to connect with you, or if they want to take an appointment and know anything about you, and they can
Thank you.
read your
Thank
blog.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, and also all my Asian friends, happy Lunar New Year. It's already New Year in much of Asia, but it's the Lunar New Year, so I want to wish everyone a happy Lunar New Year, health, prosperity, and especially hopefully we'll get through this pandemic and things will be better for the year to come.
I'm coming to Vancouver maybe in this year, or maybe if everything is good, I'll come and I'll meet you. I'll take interview directly. Another
So
one.
both interviews, and I'll take you for a bubble tea. You have to try bubble tea. That's the thing you got to try. So I'll have you over at our local place, and I look forward to you coming to Vancouver.
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me your valuable time and telling me about yourself.
I appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of your channel and all the work you do.
Yeah. Can I put this video on my YouTube channel, on internet, on social media, on podcast, everywhere with your permission?
With you have my permission.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.